More than 3 hours earlier, the tentacled alien passage huddled together productively. They wrapped their tentacles tight around one another and screamed they'd let out. When Gabriel was killed, slowly fell away to a murmur. They weren't going to be any help, thought Martha. She was all there was. She stepped forward. "Who are you?" she asked the Badger. "Name's Dashel," said the Badger who killed Gabriel. He waved the bony hair pod to his counterparts. "That's Jocelyn, and this is Archibald." Martha couldn't suppress a smile. "What?" Dashel growled. "Nothing," Martha said. "Was it middle-class parents?" "We don't have parents," said Archibald, an other male Badger from behind her. He seemed a lot younger than the other two. "We were grown in a lab." Archibald, Dashel, child's. She don't need to know that. He didn't sound, though, Martha, like some doing an impression on the pirate. "All me hearties and the silver me timbers," they were like teenagers loitering outside the co-op in the evening because they had nowhere better to go. Yet the guns were real and the passengers were terrified. And they just disintegrated Gabriel for no reason. She had to take this seriously. "What do you want?" she said. Dashel ran forward and suddenly grabbed her throat. His claws were sharp, grazing her skin. His breath stank of something like cat food. The stench brought tears to her eyes. "You girly," leered Dashel. "We want you to shut your mouth." Martha nodded, eyes open wide. Okay, she was scared. "Dash," said the other pirate, the gruff-sounding woman, Jocelyn. "We gotta ask him questions." Dashel considered, and for a moment Martha thought he just might kill her anyway. Slowly he released his grip on her throat. She could still feel the pattern of his claws on her skin and wondered how badly she was bruised. "Right," said Dashel, addressing the whole room. His tentacle alien squawked with fear like so many terrified chickens. Martha could remember the time when she too might have been cowed by the sight of strange gun-toting aliens, but now it was just any other day. "We want to know where your captain is," demanded Dashel. "We want to know where your engines is, and we want to know why none of you tried to fight us." The alien passengers cowered, too terrified to respond. Martha could see Dashel would think nothing of killing a few of them, if only to prompt an answer. "We're all just passengers," she said, trying to keep the terror from her voice. "We're civilians. We don't know any of this stuff." Dashel considered this. "Har," he sighed. "And what we gonna do, Dash?" said Archibald. "Don't bother 'em," Jocelyn warned him. "You have to show respect." Dashel bowed. "We gotta wait for the others. Captain Florence will arrive. Orders." "Well, she'll let us kill him?" said Archibald eagerly. Dashel smiled at him fondly. "Maybe, if you behave." Well, they waited. Martha counted to 10, trying to keep her cool. Any minute now the doctor would stroll in and everything would get sorted. She kept counting to 20, to 30. There was still no doctor by the time she got to 60, and she'd been counting more and more slowly. "Oh well," she thought, "it looks like she'd have to do the sorting." So she asked Dashel amiably, "How many of you are there?" 100, said Dashel. "More like 1,000, said Jocelyn. "We're like a swarm or an army." "Yeah," agreed Archibald. 1,000 bigger than 100, ain't it?" "It's a bit bigger, yes," said Martha. "So where are the other 997 of you?" "They should be here, Dash," said Jocelyn. Martha realized Jocelyn had a pink lipstick around her hairy mouth. It was one of those pastel shades that Martha didn't suit. It looked quite good on a badger. "They should be here," admitted Dashel. His shiny black nose twitched in irritation. "Did they get lost?" asked Archibald. "How did they get lost, Archie?" said Jocelyn, not unkindly. Don't know, said Archie. He shrugged. I get lost sometimes. Dashiell raised one arm and spoke into the computer set on his wrist. Captain Florence, he said. We need orders. The response was static. Dashiell tried again, sending the same message over and over and getting no reply. Martha could see him getting more and more worried, and she didn't like what that might mean for the prisoners. They aren't there, he says eventually with a terrifying calm. So what are we going to do? Asked Archibald, almost on his tiptoes with excitement. We're going to do what the captain told us, said Dashiell. We're going to find what we came for, we're going to nick it, and then we're going to wreck this whole ship. Yeah, agreed Archibald. You're going to stay here, Archie, Dashiell told him. Me and Josh are going to go and take a look-see. Said Archibald. Now, Josh told him. This way you get to guard the prisoners and kill them if they make trouble. I suppose, said Archibald sulkily. Good lad. Archibald took Dashiell's position guarding the only door in the cocktail lounge. Martha noticed how he stood up straighter, looked more mature given the responsibility. He gave the impression that he wanted the prisoners to try something, so he could teach them a lesson. Won't be long, said Dashiell, and then he and Jocelyn set off. Have fun. The alien passengers kept quiet, huddled together front of the bay window. Martha heard them gasp as she made her way slowly to the bar. It was all she could think to do to help them. The serving robot stepped neatly up to serve her. He must have been programmed to fetch drinks whenever the circumstances. Martha rather liked that. Hydrogen hydroxide on the rocks, she told him loudly. And don't be stingy with it. The robot quickly fetched her a glass of water with ice cubes, while the perched herself on the broth stool. In a long mirror beside the bar, she could see Archibald watching her closely. He didn't know quite what to do. She raised an eyebrow at him, like she did when staring at a bloke in the pub. And just like any staring bloke, Archibald looked quickly away. Gotcha though, Martha. She didn't turn around. She addressed his reflection and left him talking to her back. So, she said in a bent, sexy voice, you're learning to be a pirate. She saw him screw up his hairy face. I'm not learning nothing, he said. I am a pirate. Of course you are, she said. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. She watched him seeing the Captain Florent, he said. And Lash says we're not pirates anyhow. Says we're more venture capitalists. Well, fancy, said Martha. She took a slow sip of water, making him wait. Her sister had thought her for a knack of it. Tish lived to torture boys. So venture capitalists like you, she went on, must spend a lot of time in places like this, sipping cocktails, doing deals. Yeah, said Archibald. He was, she knew, lying though his prominent teeth all the time. That's so, she said. You'll have a drink then? Archibald blistered. What? He said. Just a drink, nothing heavy. She looked at him down in the glass of water again and she winked at him. Just that last minute, so he might think he'd imagine it. When she glanced up again, she could see him blushing underneath his coarse fur. Yeah, he said, but Dash won't like it. Dashiell can have a drink when he gets back, she said. It's not like he's missing out. There's a free bar anyways. And guarding prisoners is thirsty work. Archibald coughed, clearing his dryness in his throat. He leant back to look through the door into the ballroom to see if the colleagues were anywhere nearby. Then when he waved his gun at the alien prisoners cowering in front of the bay window, the alien squealed in terror, exactly the response he wanted. As Archibald made his way slowly to the bar, shoulders back, walking tall, Martha could see him playing it cool. He leant against the bar beside her, the perfect position to talk to her. At the same time watched the prisoners. She smiled demurely at him, and he grinned back. His breath was hot and stinky. His fur blistered like that of an old toothbrush. "Yes, sir," said the robot barman. Archibald's eyes showed for a moment of panic. "What should I have?" he asked Martha. She looked him up and down, appraising him. "Big, strong bloke like you?" she said. "I bet you can handle anything." "Yeah," he agreed. "I bet that too." Martha nodding at the robot. "Do your worst," she told it. The robot began to mix various brightly colored liquids into a glass. Archibald watched in horror as the final concoction was presented to him. An amber liquid let off with a haze of steam. Martha raised her glass of water, clinked it against his drink. "Down the hatch," she said, and knocked back her water in one go. "Yeah," said Archibald, "okay," and he knocked the amber liquid back, and then spat it out on the bar. He bent over, doubled, coughing like a well-seasoned smoker. Martha would have made a move to relieve him of his gun, but she could see how tightly he kept his grip on it. She decided not to risk it. The robot barman quickly set to work with a towel, tidying up the mess. Archibald wiped the syrupy drool from his chin with the back of his hairy paw, and he struggled at Martha. "Hey," he said. "Didn't really like it." "No?" said Martha, as if she didn't see anything. "Oh well." He stuck his tongue out. "Ah, now I got this horrid taste," he said. "Oh dear," said Martha. "Maybe you should try something else." Archibald glared at the robot barman with his dark eyes narrowing in slits. "Nah," he said. "I'm bored with drinking." "Yeah," said Martha, keen to keep him on her side. "It's a bit boring. What about something to eat?" Archibald nodded eagerly. "Yeah," he said. "I'm not bored of eating." He followed her to the end of the bar, silver tray loaded with niblets. The tentacle aliens hurried out of the way and carefully to huddle on the other end of the bay window and not to get too close to any of the doors without out into the ballroom. Archibald glared at them, reminding them who's the boss, and turned back to the waiting niblets. "There's a sausage roll, a posh thing wrapped in a bacon." Martha watched his eyes light up. "I've never ate this stuff before," he told her. Without getting a care, he reached out the tray of cheese and pineapple on sticks. He took one of the scrumptious and scanned it closely like a jeweler examining a diamond. "You don't eat the stick," Martha whispered. Archibald nodded at this stage advice. "Right," he said, but Nate made no move to eat it. Martha helped herself to her own cheese and pineapple steak and showed him how to eat it. She placed the stick back in the tray that the little silver box provided. Archibald watched her attentively as she just performed a great magic. "Right," he said, and he did his best to copy the easy way she'd eaten hers. He nibbled wearily at first, but then after a first taste of the pineapple, there was no stopping him. When he'd finished, he dropped the clean stick into the silver box and then grinned with happily badger grin. "Good?" she asked. "It's okay," said Archibald. "You could always make sure have another one." Archibald's eyes opened wide at the thought of this. He waited for a moment in case she changed her mind, but then helped himself to another cheese and pineapple stick. Martha laughed to see him so delighted. "You've really never had food like this before?" she asked, as she watched him take 2 cheese and pineapple sticks at once. "Nah," he said between mouthfuls. "We get food packs. Have 'em share 'em. They're okay if they get recycled right." Martha didn't understand. Recycled from what? Archibald wrinkled his black nose. "What else?" he gruffed. "From the toilets." Martha could see that yes, perhaps cheese and pineapple on sticks was something of a luxury. She felt her heart going out to him, growing up on a spaceship and without badger pirates, never going to school or getting his daily 5 fruit and veg, and would be a dull, brutal, compartmentalized life, and he not even been born. Instead, he and his colleagues had grown in a lab, slaves made to follow orders just like the mouthless men she'd met in the engine room. Despite his slaving jaw working on yet another cheese and pineapple stick, despite his gun, despite everything, she wanted to give him a hug. But that wouldn't do any good. Any minute now, Dashiell and Jocelyn would come back, and whatever they found, the prisoners would be in danger. So she hadn't been able to get Archibald drunk. She had another idea, one that would make him see the prisoners as people and make it harder for him to shoot them. As he reached for another cheese and pineapple stick, she slapped back his paw. "Ow," he said. "Where are your manners?" she said. Archibald considered. "I think I lost them," he said. "Sorry." "Yeah," Martha said, acting cross like her mother. "But there are other people here, aren't they?" "What about them?" Archibald looked over at the tentacle alien still cowering in fright. "They don't like this stuff," he said. "They're bored of it." "Are they really?" said Martha, folding her arms. "Why don't you offer them a tray and see how bored they are?" Archibald muttered something under his breath, but did as he was told. Picking up the tray of remaining cheese and pineapple sticks with one paw and sticking over to the prisoners, with his other paw he held his gun, also pointing at the prisoners. "Here," he said. First prisoner, the orange lady Martha had spoken to earlier, with the gun pointed right at her. Miss Worthington didn't dare refuse. A long tentacle looped up around the delicately took hold of the stick. With everyone watching her, she took a teeny, ladylike bite of the cheese and fluttered her eyes in false delight. "Why, dear," she told Archibald, quite eager to please him. "That's simply delight." Archibald grinned at her. "Yeah," he said, pleased with himself. He glanced back at Martha, who stood still at the bar. She nodded encouragingly at him as we moved into the throng of the tentacle aliens, who took the profound food from him more and more eagerly. Archibald seemed overdrawn by the tension, grinning at everyone for all his brandished gun. Soon there was a hubble of comfortable chatter, even a bit of laughing. "That was good," said Martha, as Archibald returned to her with an empty tray. He placed it carefully beside the other tray of food and helped himself to a sausage roll. "Yeah," he said, about to say something farther, but he bitten off the sausage roll and his eyes widened in amazement at the incredible new flavor. "Wait till you try a scorched egg," Martha told him. While Archibald tried each of the different niblets on the offer, Miss Worthington came over to join them. "I wonder," she said, "if there are any more of those delightful cheese and pineapple ones." "Sorry," said Martha, "all gone." But Archibald then offered Miss Worthington a whole tray of them. Miss Worthington let out a high, girlish giggle as she deftly took one. "Oh, you are an angel," she said. "Yeah," agreed Archibald. "Hang on," said Martha, pointing to the tray laden with cheese and pineapple on a stick. "Where did those come from?" It were Archibald indicated at the end of the bar where the tray of niblets waited. "Did I do it wrong?" "But there are only one tray of these things," she said. "Martha, we finished it." "Yes," agreed Archibald. Martha looked over the bar. "Where's the empty tray?" she said. "The one you just put down." Archibald scrunched the bar himself and could see no empty tray. He shrugged then and seemed to notice the full tray he was still holding lifted up for Martha to see. "Here," he said. Martha boggled. The robot barman was at the far end of the bar, and she was sure she would have seen him if he'd come over at this end to restock the niblets. Maybe this tray has special features, she thought, which just filled up again the moment the food ran out. Maybe they used the same technology on the teleporter thing she and the doctor had seen in the engine room. "I never had stuff like this before," Archibald told Miss Worthington. "No, but," thought Martha, something was wrong. She could feel it. After all these months of traveling with the doctor, she developed a sort of sixth sense for things like this. Her thoughts were cut short by Miss Worthington's mocking laughter. "Well, of course you haven't had food like this before, dear," she told Archibald. "You weren't born in this sort of lifestyle, were you?" She probably didn't mean to sound so unkind, though Martha, but it was hardly wise to antagonize the badger with a gun. Look, she said, trying to sound inconsiderate. I was born, said Archibald proudly. Got grown in a test tube. Precisely, dear, precisely, said Miss Worthington. And you were grown with a purpose in mind. We needed someone to do the grubby jobs, don't we? Huh? Said Archibald. What Miss Worthington means, said Martha. She means we're dirty, said Dashiell. He and Jocelyn marched back into the cocktail lounge. And she's right, ain't she? We're dirty, we fight dirty, and we don't care. Well, when we kill our prisoners. Miss Worthington poised in protest but thought better of it, which was just as well, though Martha, as the pirates were in an even worse mood than before, judging by the surly looks on their face, they hadn't found what they were after. What's been happening, Archie? Dashiell demanded. Archibald carefully put the tray cheese and pineapple sticks back down on the bar and headed over to his colleagues. His body shagged as he went over. Martha noticed when it had just been him, he looked taller, tougher, more in control. When the other badgers were around, though, he became more sulky like a teenager. I was asking them questions, he told Dashiell. Find anything out, Dashiell asked him. Nah, said Archibald. They're pretty stupid. Martha couldn't stop Miss Worthington. Well, really, she huffed, more than a little too loudly. You got something to say, have you? Growled Dashiell, jabbing his gun towards her. Miss Worthington trembled where she stood. No, she squeaked. Martha reached out her hand and took hold of Miss Worthington's tentacle. There was a little she could do if the badgers turned on any of the prisoners, but Miss Worthington seemed grateful for the gesture. Her trembling began to ease. Don't annoy him, Martha whispered. I don't mean to, dear, Miss Worthington whispered back, but you know, I mean really. The three badger pirates conversed by the door back into the ballroom. Martha edged forward to better hear what they were saying, but Miss Worthington held her back. Don't, dear, she whispered. They'll kill you. And Martha didn't need to get any nearer. Dashiell was so angry that he didn't bother to keep his voice down. We found the bridge, he growled, but couldn't get in there, and we couldn't find the engine, said Jocelyn. It's the door with the stuff, Dashiell told her. I bet you. Could be, said Jocelyn. But you know what Captain Thorne says, and can't prove it, can you? And what about the others? Said Archibald. Dashiell glanced over at Martha and the tentacled aliens before he said anything further. He whispered, but Martha didn't need to hear the words. To want to keep it secret could mean only one thing, that the three badgers were all there were, and Martha could deal with three badger-faced pirates. There's food in here if you want it, she said, gathering up a tray of cheese and pineapple on sticks, taking it over to them. Again the tray had replenished itself. Despite what Archibald had taken off moments ago, the tray was full again. What's this? Asked Jocelyn wearily. Oh yeah, said Archibald. You should try these. He showed the colleagues how to eat the cheese and pineapple, and what to do with the sticks, and Jocelyn followed the example. Like him, their eyes widened with amazement. That's amazing, Dashiell said. That's like he trailed off, unable to think of the words to describe what it tasted like. It's nice, agreed Jocelyn, wowed by the very idea that food could taste good. You, said Dashiell, prodding Martha with his paw. What's this stuff called? Before Martha could answer, she heard tottering behind her. She didn't need to guess who it is. You, said Dashiell, come here. Martha watched in horror as Miss Worthington came forward. Her tentacles trembled in fear, but Martha saw her struggle not to show she was scared. You really didn't mean anything by it, said Miss Worthington, talking quietly. But really, dears, it's funny. I mean, imagine you've never seen a canapé? Canapés? Said Dashiell, still holding a half-eaten cheese and pineapple stick. That's what they're called? Yeah, said Martha, trying to calm the situation. That's a posh name for a finger food called a niblets. And it was like any family party with her having to be the peacemaker. Except when her parents argued they weren't so also wielding guns. "Niblets," said Dashiell slowly, "'cause you nibble on 'em." "Yeah," he seemed quite taken with the word, and finished his cheese and pineapple stick as he considered. Martha stepped forward, providing the tray so that they could put the sticks in the little silver box. She didn't withdraw, waiting in front of him until he took another cheese and pineapple stick from her tray. Anything to keep his mind off the gun in his hand. "Also, we got sausage roll and scorched eggs," she told him, "and those things like baby pizzas." "Core," said Dashiell and Jocelyn together. "Things like baby pizzas," said Miss Worthington. "Ugh." "What now?" shouted Dashiell, storming over to her. Miss Worthington threw her tentacles up in the wide and orange face, and the other tentacle aliens quickly withdrew and far outside the room, leaving Miss Worthington on her own with Dashiell. "She didn't mean it," said Martha quickly. She wasn't sure what she could do to stop him, especially with the tray of cheese and pineapple sticks in her hands. "You shut up," Dashiell snapped at her. "Now," he said to Miss Worthington, propping her egg-shaped body with his gun. "You tell me what." Miss Worthington seemed to consider her predicament and concluded she had nothing to lose. She visibly relaxed, meeting Dashiell's gaze and holding up. "I know I can't help it, dear," she said, "but you three are just absolute shambles. Coming aboard like this, all threats and violence. You don't even know what you're eating. My boys could tell you what made the best blinds, and in what they're called, young women before they were very hatched." Dashiell seemed transfixed by the performance. He knew he was being insulted. Martha could see, but he didn't quite understand how. The cheese and pineapple sticks were a brief taste of life he and his colleagues had never even known, and for all the tentacled alien prisoners taunted him, and salt also gave the tantalizing glimpse of life where you could take a luxurious staff for granted, a life where the food had different names. Martha glanced over at Jocelyn and Archibald. They too were watching avidly, hanging on what Miss Worthington had to say. It was just possible, she thought, that the tentacle alien had made them rethink their pirate ways. "Yeah," murmured Jocelyn. "Yeah," agreed Archibald. "Go on and do it, Dash." Martha suddenly saw as she got it wrong. They were hungry at the thought of Miss Worthington's words of the canapes, and they were excited to see what she just given them an excuse to kill her. "Please," said Miss Martha, taking the tray of cheese and pineapple sticks with her as she went over to Dashiell. "I said shut up," he snapped at her, his eyes never leaving Miss Worthington. Miss Worthington did not look away from him. "It's all right, dear," she told Martha. "I'd rather get it over with now than spend any more time with this riffraff." She smiled with satisfaction, like somehow she had just won a board game. Dashiell took a step back from her and raised his gun. "No!" cried Martha, dropping the tray on the one side as she ran forward. Dashiell swiped her away with one paw, sending her sprawling across the floor on top of the split cheese and pineapple sticks. Stunned, she looked up in time to see Dashiell pulling the trigger. Miss Worthington did scream. She stood tall, sure, and haughty, as her pink light dazzled around her, and Martha watched, appalled, until there was nothing of Miss Worthington left to see.